What is up, everybody? How y'all doing out there? Hope this video is finding you well. I'm coming at you again with a Nano mug today. If you don't know what Nano stands for, it's short for National Novel Writing Month, which we are well over way of getting you prepared to start. In about a week and a half, you're about to start your manuscript, and whether this is your first or one of many, I hope that you are just as excited as I am. Welcome to another episode of Write On In, where we talk about everything going on in the writing world. But as I said, at the moment we are focusing on novel writing. My name is Andrew J. Stillman, and I am the host of this little writing journey of ours. Today we are going to cover something that every writer feels at some point, and no, it is not writer's block. We will be talking about that one day, don't worry, but it is not this day. Today we are talking about imposter syndrome. Ugh, it's like the worst thing that you can possibly feel, I swear. If you do not know what imposter syndrome is, stick around because that obviously is the topic of today's show. If you haven't already, please hit that little subscribe button in the description box, followed by that little notification bell so you can keep up to date with all of these tutorials for novel writing and everything else that I have planned for the coming months and years. If you are watching these videos after the October/November 2020 time frame in which they are filmed, I have no idea what is going to be going on with this channel, but I'm sure the rest of these videos will be found in some sort of novel writing playlist, or they're just linked in the description box for you right now as well. Anyway, with all of that now out of the way, without further ado, let's get right on in. Welcome back, everybody. First things first. Yes, imposter syndrome is real. It is essentially just feeling like a fraud in whatever you're doing. Today's episode is obviously focusing on imposter syndrome within writers, but it is certainly not subject to just writers. It's really anybody who has any kind of creative bone in them, or anyone who does any kind of independent contracting type of work. It really is, it's pretty widespread. Anybody can feel like an imposter. Writers, however, allow this feeling of fraudulence and being an imposter to stop them from actually writing. They don't feel like a writer. They don't feel qualified to write a book. The idea of writing a book scares them because, again, when they think of people who read that book, they think that those people are going to catch them on their fraudulence, that they're gonna know that they're not actually a writer, that they didn't deserve to put the words there in the first place or something. I'm not necessarily sure every writer feels that way when they have the actual intent of only keeping it as a hobby or something for themselves. The moment any idea of selling your writing comes into your brain, I'm pretty sure every writer feels this sense of like, am I good enough at some point? The idea of selling my work personally was what made me feel like a fraud for the first time, because I've been scratching stories out since I was 7 years old. The moment I thought of charging somebody, it really was life-changing. It wasn't as much about feeling like I couldn't do it as much as it was about feeling like I didn't deserve to take it from a hobby into a profession. We, however, are not focusing on my character arc in my life for the purpose of this video, but I hope you've been focusing on those character arcs for your characters in your book. Here's the thing. You're only a fraud if you say you've written a book and you haven't. Therefore, if you write a book, especially if you've been sticking with me on these tutorials through October and want to stick through National Novel Writing Month that's taken over next month, you'll be able to say that within a few weeks. A few weeks. In a few weeks, you will be able to take that sentence of I wrote a book from a false statement to a true statement, then you are no longer a fraud. The moment you have that first draft out, whether it is good, bad, or anything else in between, you have written a book. It just becomes a fact. And it is one of the few things in your writing career that will probably be factual in the blink of an eye. The moment you hit that last period, the moment you type the end, you have a book. Writers, I think, are a little bit different in their idea of fraudulence because it might not be as much about thinking that they're a fraud for trying to write a book, as much as it is that they feel like a fraud until they have a certain amount of books sold. Or perhaps they're just waiting to make some sort of name for themselves, and so they feel until that has happened that there's no way that they can consider themselves legitimate. Every journey is different, so let's start with that first. Say you've written and released 20 books. You've still written written, released, and sold 20 books. If there's someone else out there who only has 2 or 3 books out and they've sold a lot more than you, it doesn't make you any less successful in your path either. The idea of success is also subjective. So it really isn't like there's some end-all, be-all definition as to what success actually is. Personally, I also think the idea of success should also be changing throughout your entire life. You should be setting goals and then taking steps to achieving them. Every step you take counts as some sort of success as you move toward the greater goal in your mind. Some people, you know, just have to walk over a couple of mountains before they find their little gold mine. Others have to climb Mount Everest and take a gondola to the moon. If it makes you feel any better, I have felt like an imposter the entire month and a half that I have been on YouTube. It's been a whopping 6 weeks since I recorded my first video as of this video, and this video will be coming out 6 weeks after its recording, so I'm in a weird state with that too. If I hadn't gone through what I have been through in my writing career, then I don't think that I would be able to handle these feelings of fraudulence. Because here, I am making a YouTube video about writing advice, and therefore I am a YouTuber who offers writing advice. I always face those feelings of fraudulence though, no matter what. The idea of selling books still makes me feel like a fraud. Anytime I charge for a blog post or like a newsletter or anything like that, I still feel like a fraud. I just think that creative people have this inherent idea where their margin of success is determined by what other people think of their work. Despite everyone's near desperate ass attempts to not give one crap. It's honestly so hard not to care, but you have to make that separation. Especially if you are facing this idea of being an imposter and you are only writing this book for yourself. Just roll with that. Then you can simply take that statement of I wrote a book and allow that to be a matter of success. Because maybe your idea of success is to be able to simply say I wrote a book and have that be a true statement. So let that be your motivation. That's honestly why I'm trying to guide newer writers through this process, because I know how lonely and intimidating it can be, and even though I have been around the block a few times, I really am still right there with you. It can be so crazy to simply try and be one of 7 billion voices that stands out somehow from the crowd. I would simply just try and suggest that you not limit your own successes simply because you refuse to accept them as they come. And like so much other advice on this channel, I'm talking to you, Editor Andrew. Yes, I do give myself little subliminal messages sometimes so that when I edit these back, I remember the advice that I give so that I can practice what I preach. And while I am very terrified to share my own writing, despite the fact that I have both opened up a YouTube channel about writing and am writing a book on YouTube, I'm still pushing that boundary for myself. So I promise that I too do things that scare me sometimes, and I too have to find ways to face my fears. I have purposefully avoided the topic of the business side of writing over the last couple of weeks because I don't want the new writers to stress themselves out about that before they even have their first draft. Because even published authors know that you have to have that draft before you start worrying about anything, or else you're never gonna make it anywhere. But that is the first success that I would love for you to focus on. Taking the simple statement of I wrote a book from a false statement to a true one. Especially if you're simply feeling fraudulent because you don't have a book, now is your time. If, however, your imposter syndrome hasn't hit you until after you've written that book, I'll get to you, but not in this video. This Thursday, we are going to wrap up October of 2020 with a little writing tip tutorial type thing when we discuss dialogue, which, if I'm being honest, is my actual favorite thing to discuss when it comes to writing. Up until now, those in-depths have covered character development, plot development, setting development, and the other videos like this one have covered where ideas come from, how to choose your genre and to understand it, and how to connect with your inner voice. We're just about a week and a half away from kicking off with National Novel Writing Month, so a month from right now, you're gonna be over halfway to to your 50,000 word novel. I hope you're all finding value out of these videos, and I hope that you are going to take this journey with me if you haven't started already. I am also posting a little bit more on my personal author channel. I think I mentioned that earlier in this video. I've tried to talk about it a little bit more. It's posted down in the description box. That's more of just like a vlog style, me being me thing. I'm just letting people know that it's there. Also, I've wanted to ask this in every single video, but I forget every single time. So before I forget, if you have made it this far, name a book. Anyhow, lovelies, that is all I have for you today on this topic of imposter syndrome. Get over it. I'm just kidding. That was a little bit abrasive, but seriously, it really is just as simple as changing your mentality, which is easier said than done. But again, right now, just focus on that first success. Take the statement, I wrote a book, from something false to something true. Then you're no longer a fraud. You can either accept that you're not a fraud or move forward, or just work harder until you meet the margins of success that you define for yourself. I wrote a book. All you're trying to do right now is make that statement a true fact. See you Thursday.